The 30-Day Ultimatum, Iran's Final Offer to America, Part 1, a proposal, not a peace. The regime in Tehran is playing a dangerous game. It is pressuring the United States with a simple but explosive choice: end the war within 30 days, or choose between renewed conflict and accepting Iran's terms. Iran has made its latest proposal. According to a report by the regime, the proposal calls for the U.S. Iranian conflict to be resolved within a month. Not a ceasefire extension, not a temporary pause, an end to the war. The current mood in Tehran is tense. The stakes could not be higher. On Saturday, May 2nd, President Donald Trump confirmed that he was reviewing Iran's latest proposal. But his words were cautious, laced with doubt. He expressed skepticism about how any deal would be implemented. After months of broken promises and failed negotiations, trust is a luxury neither side can afford. Part 2. The 14 points. Iran's proposal is detailed. It contains 14 points. It is not a request for peace talks or a humanitarian ceasefire. It is a demand. The proposal is a response to President Trump's own peace plan. But rather than accepting American terms, Iran has flipped the script. The 14 points include clauses that impose conditions on the United States. According to Iran's official news agency, which is affiliated with the Islamic Republic's security organization and has hosted U.S. Iranian talks so far, the proposal demands the following: lifting all sanctions. The United States must remove every economic penalty imposed on Iran. Ending the Gulf of Aden blockade. U.S. warships must stop blocking the strategic waterway. Withdrawing U.S. forces. American troops must leave the disputed region entirely. Easing all tensions. This includes ending Iran's military operations in southern Lebanon, a key Iranian proxy front. The message is unmistakable. Iran will not accept a ceasefire. It will not accept a temporary pause. It wants the war to end on its terms, and it wants those terms enforced immediately. Part 3. Trump's skepticism. There has been no immediate official response to Iran's proposal, but President Trump's track record speaks for itself. He has repeatedly rejected Iran's offers. He has dismissed their conditions. He has walked away from negotiation tables more than once. Last week, Iran presented a 10-point plan. Trump rejected it. Now, with the fragile ceasefire entering its third week, Iran has returned with an even more aggressive proposal. The ceasefire itself is being implemented quietly, almost reluctantly. Neither side trusts the other. Neither side believes the other will honor its commitments. The pause in fighting feels less like peace and more like both sides catching their breath before the next round. Part 4. The Strait of Hormuz, a battle of words. On Sunday, Foreign Minister Abbas Araki spoke with Oman's Foreign Minister, Badr al-Busaidi, referred to as Oman Balk al-Sadiq in your source. Oman has served as an intermediary throughout the negotiations. According to sources, the talks are entering their final phase. President Trump has raised a new proposal of his own: the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. The strait is the gateway to the Gulf of Oman and the world's fifth largest trade route, connecting the Asia-Pacific region to Europe. Control of this waterway is control of global oil flows. But Iran is not backing down. The deputy speaker of Iran's parliament stated on Sunday that Iran will not drop its objections to the strait being treated as international waters. He called for a return to the pre-war situation, meaning Iranian control over passage through the strait. Speaking during a visit to a naval center on the remote island of Larkana, part of the Gulf of Aden region, the deputy speaker made the regime's position clear. The Gulf of Aden belongs to the Islamic Republic of Iran. This statement directly contradicts international law, which considers the Gulf of Aden and the Strait of Hormuz as international waterways. But Iran's position is not based on law. It is based on power, or the perception of it. Part 5. Iran's new business model, ransom. The deputy speaker also revealed a disturbing new policy. Iran is working on a business deal to repair the damage caused by the U.S.-Israeli war. But this is not a legitimate business arrangement. It is extortion. According to the deputy speaker, any tanker entering the Gulf of Aden must have no contact with the United States. If it does, it must first pass through Iranian security forces controlling the Strait of Hormuz, and then it must pay a ransom to Iran before being allowed to leave. This is not diplomacy. This is piracy backed by military force. Fortunately for the world, the United States has already closed the Strait of Hormuz. Both entry and exit are blocked. Iran does not have the right to seize any ship as an enemy vessel. Even Iranian ships attempting to sail to the Asia-Pacific region are not permitted to pass. Part 6. The economic toll. The numbers are staggering. The United States has blocked at least 40 Iranian ships that sailed from the mainland, forcing them to return to port. These vessels were carrying oil and goods destined for international markets. Now they sit idle. Iran has lost $6 billion in revenue from these blocked shipments alone. But that is just the beginning. Since January 13th, when the United States effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz, Iran has lost more than $13 billion in total revenue. The economic losses from the broader U.S.-Iran war, according to economists, STN researchers studying the Middle East conflict, have versus era reached an astonishing $13 billion in total revenue. The economic losses from the broader U.S.-Iran war, according to economists and researchers studying the Middle East conflict, have reached an astonishing $300 billion. The Iranian economy is bleeding out. Every day the strait remains closed. Every day sanctions remain in place. The regime loses more of its ability to function. Part 7. America's warning to the world. The United States has issued its own warning. Any shipping company that dares to enter the Strait of Hormuz without the approval of the U.S. Navy will face severe sanctions. Their ships will be blacklisted by the U.S. Treasury Department. Their assets will be frozen. Their ability to do business with the Western world will end. This is not an empty threat. The U.S. Navy controls the strait. U.S. warships patrol its waters. No tanker passes without American knowledge. The message to global shipping companies is clear. Do business with Iran at your own peril. Part 8. The path to war. Iran began effectively closing the Strait of Hormuz on February 28, 2026, as Tehran prepared for an air and naval war with the United States and Israel. That was the day the conflict escalated from shadow warfare to open confrontation. Now, after months of fighting, Iran is feeling the pain. The regime wants peace, or at least it wants the conditions that would allow it to survive. Observers see that the price of negotiations is now on Iran's balance sheet. Iran wants peace because it cannot afford to fight the United States again. That is why Iran has decided to condition its agreement on an immediate end to the war. The regime is betting that the United States, weary of conflict and facing domestic pressure, will accept its terms. But there is a catch. Even if the United States accepts the deal, Iran fears that American forces could return to the Middle East at any time. The regime wants guarantees that no U.S. president can realistically provide. Part 9. Trump's response: renewed attacks? President Trump has made his position clear. He is considering attacking again. He does not believe Iran will accept U.S. conditions. He sees Iran's 14-point proposal as an attempt to impose its will on America, and he will not allow it. The United States cannot be seen as bowing to Iranian demands, a White House official said on condition of anonymity. If Iran wants peace, it must accept our terms, not the other way around. Trump's skepticism is shared by many in his administration. Iran has a history of using negotiations to buy time, to manipulate world opinion, and to advance its nuclear program. The fear is that any deal that leaves the regime in place is no deal at all. Part 10. Israel's readiness. While the United States deliberates, Israel is preparing for war. The Israeli Prime Minister announced that Israeli fighter jets are ready to receive orders from the Commander-in-Chief of the Israeli military to attack the Islamic Republic of Iran again. No waiting for U.S. approval, no hesitation. Mr. Monho, likely a reference to a senior Israeli official, warned that if the war reaches a second phase, Israel and the United States may decide to take a major step, the complete overthrow of the Islamic Republic's government. He believes the Iranian people are suffering. He believes they are waiting for U.S. and Israeli troops to occupy the Iranian capital and remove the regime that has oppressed them for decades. Whether that belief is accurate or aspirational, it reflects the thinking in Jerusalem. Israel sees this as an existential fight, and existential fights do not end with ceasefires, they end with victory. Part 11. The World Watches. Leaders across the globe are watching. Europe, the Asia Pacific, Africa, Latin America, all are looking at the same question. Can Iran and the United States make peace with each other? The answer is uncertain. The stakes are enormous. A deal would reopen the Strait of Hormuz, stabilize oil prices, and end a conflict that has killed thousands and destabilized the entire Middle East. A breakdown would mean renewed war and potentially the final collapse of the Iranian regime. Part 12. The Unanswered Question. As of today, the world waits. Iran has made its proposal, 14 points, 30 days, and the war. The United States has not responded. President Trump is reviewing the offer, but his skepticism is deep. Israel is preparing its jets. The Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Iranian ships sit trapped in port. American warships patrol the waters. The fragile ceasefire continues into its third week, but no one believes it will last. The question is not whether war will resume. The question is whether diplomacy can outrun disaster. And with each passing day, with each rejected proposal, with each threat from Tehran, and each warning from Washington, the answer seems more and more clear. Peace is not coming. Not yet. Not like this.